Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, I'm always releasing these videos, especially during down times, and I try to remain positive and push what we're doing forward. And the other day I jokingly said, what am I supposed to do? Change my channel name to Black Pill Politics? And do nothing but project doom and gloom? And I said in that video that that'll never happen and I'll never do that. But funnily enough, or ironically, now I have this bug in my brain, this little thing that just won't go away. You know, the last two elections are changing my perspective entirely. I've spent a whole lot of time trying to educate myself on trends, voter demographics, polling data, polling inaccuracies, all in this effort to be able to have a good grasp in understanding what's happening and where things are going. And I'm at the point where, you know what, it's time to throw it all in the garbage. It means nothing anymore. The polls mean nothing. Likely voter enthusiasm gaps don't mean anything. At least they don't mean anything for Republicans. To a certain extent, there is an element of black pill. I'm starting to get to a point where I'm thinking, I don't know if Republicans are ever going to be able to win big in a general election unless the shift is so monumental, so massive that it's an unstoppable force and it breaks through that Democrat barrier, because that's exactly what I think Democrats have created here. They have fundamentally changed the system, and something major is going to have to happen, a big change, if Republicans can ever expect to even compete ever again. And I think that's something very important to discuss, and it's probably something that should be discussed on a much wider scale. There should probably be a public discussion on these topics outside of the few independent sources that bring it up. We got some stuff to talk about, so let's roll the tape. You know, there's one way to describe the results of this election: confusing. It doesn't make sense. Of course, there's the convenient excuse that it's all Donald Trump's fault. Chuck Schumer was just on MSNBC, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been CNN, where he said this.
What is going to be different this time with the MAGA Republicans? Because you've said that before. Please work with us. Why is it different this time? Why do you think they'll be more open?
It's different this time because they lost. They all expected to win. The red wave proved to be a red mirage. And one, if not the main reason, but one of the main reasons for sure, was that average American folks, even those in the middle, even those who tended to be Republican, said, I'm afraid of this MAGA. They're trying to ruin our democracy. It's not, if you look at the numbers, if you look at the results, House and Senate, the MAGA Republican way didn't work. The MAGA Republican candidates across the board, you just showed some of them, lost. Yeah. So if you're a good leader of a Republican Party, you say continuing to follow them is a path to disaster.
Right, so it was CNN on Don Lemon's morning show. He claims that there was no red wave, that it was a red mirage, and that it proves that the MAGA Republican way didn't work. But the question is, will any Republican way work ever again? You know, to claim that it was a red mirage, I think, is highly, highly dishonest. Was it really a mirage? 70% of the American populace being unhappy with the current state of affairs? The majority of Americans blaming Democrats for their problems, especially their economic woes? The majority of American voters trusting Republicans on all of the top issues, the generic ballot favoring Republicans, Republicans favored to take over the Senate. I mean, Democrats, never Trumpers, everybody was expecting Republicans to take over. So to claim that it was a mirage, I think is totally bogus, because it wasn't. People were expecting the issues, voter sentiment, voter enthusiasm, everything historically that would lead to a massive GOP victory wasn't a mirage. It was real. It was there. In fact, it's still there. Yet something got in the way. And of course, that something is the Democrat machine. We always talk about discrepancies. Let's talk about discrepancies. Let's look at Florida, which used to be one of the, if not the most important state on the election map. Florida was a purple state. Florida would tell you where the rest of the country was going. Why is it that Republicans won Florida by 20 points on the governor level and nearly 20 points in the senator race, but then other supposed purple swing states shifted left, even in supposed Republican or MAGA counties? It doesn't make any sense. The question is, what is the main discrepancy? Well, the major discrepancy is obviously the law. Voter laws are different. You know, look at Wisconsin, for instance. The Supreme Court there banning mass mail ballots being sent out willy-nilly to millions of voters. They they needed to be requested with a legitimate absentee reasoning. In other words, the way things used to be, the way things ought to be, and Wisconsin, at least in the Senate race, shifted right, significantly. Ron Johnson won a decisive victory. Then in all the other places, like Nevada for instance, which we were expecting Adam Laxalt to win by a good chunk, as the late ballots trickle in, his lead evaporates. Democrats in some of the most important states have crafted an election system that favors them, and they've crafted a whole strategy around it. I mean, I showed you guys that there were 9,000 recorded votes from the University of Michigan campus, 94% for Democrats. Then we have some data coming out of Arizona State University, essentially showing the exact same thing, 9,000 ballots, 96% for Katie Hobbs, 4% for Kari Lake. And in the past, we would have never seen this before. This didn't exist. This level of high voter turnout from people who aren't informed on the issues, people who aren't tapped in to what's going on politically. Yet now, all the Democrats gotta do is promise a bunch of free crap which they cannot deliver on to young, impressionable voters. They just gotta get those ballots out to those individuals, then get some boots on the ground and target the right places that they need to get those ballots in early. And they don't even need to show up on election day. The whole thing is a disgrace. You know, voting is a privilege. The idea that everyone should participate in elections is ridiculous. If everyone participated in elections, uninformed people and ignorant people, then all parties would just act like the Democrats. It wouldn't be about actually winning on the issues and having good policies. It would be how much unrealistic promises can you market to the masses in a transactional process to get people's votes who aren't paying attention. Does that sound like a great election system? Does that sound like something that works? All the early ballots and early voting. Meanwhile, the Biden administration promising $10,000 in student loan relief. Vote for us, we'll give you 10 grand, essentially. You then see what happens. Voter turnout supposedly surges for youth voters who are buying into the scam, and then they get scammed. Biden's student loan relief program has already been officially halted and blocked. The system is unsustainable, it's untrustworthy, and it's causing something very dark and ominous as people lose trust in the system. It's making people lose faith in democracy. I mean, we're talking about something so deeply corrosive and toxic. I mean, what a swell democracy that the Democrats are creating a system that's going to lead to perpetual Democrat victory. Does that sound like democracy to you? I mean, even looking at the youth vote from these universities, 96% voting for one particular party. That's crazy. Any demographic that votes that deeply for one political party seems more like cult behavior than it does democracy in action. And clearly, Democrats have embraced this system while Republicans have rejected it. You know, before Election Day, we saw that little moment with Sunny Hostin on The View. I'm not going to play the clip for reasons, but some of you guys are probably aware of it. The little incident with Sunny Hostin accidentally telling the truth about voting for her son. And again, it adds to the skepticism, which is not a good thing. You know, I think the hope in 2022 was to sort of restore faith in the system, to see a massive GOP victory, which made sense based on the data and historically, and instead, the opposite happened. And that's a very bad result for how people feel. I mean, even with Republicans winning the generic House vote significantly, they barely picked up any seats, and they continued to lose seats as the week went on. And then you think about how Democrats won every single Democrat toss-up race. There were over 30 of them. Democrats won every single one, 100% of them, in probably one of the least favorable Democrat election environments in modern history. If that's the case, it makes you think, again, that little bug at the back of my mind, can Republicans ever win again? I mean, how bad do things have to be for Republicans to now score an election victory? After the pandemic and all the changes to the laws were made in particular states, which of course they said those laws were emergency laws and emergency measures due to the pandemic, yet they still exist. Of course, I doubt Democrats are ever going to let go of them. But after that, the question is, how are Republicans ever going to win again? There needs to be a conversation about these topics. Clearly, what's happening is unsustainable and makes no sense. And again, you guys know me, I am the eternal optimist when it comes to this stuff. I try to always look forward, and if it's gotten me to the point where I'm almost to the extent of being black-pilled, then the question is, what does that mean moving forward? Given the current system, can the Democrats ever be stopped? Is it even possible, especially with the incompetent Republican leadership? I feel like what we saw in Florida represented how people felt. but for some very odd reason, we only saw it in Florida. And I wonder why that is. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel if you guys are up for it. I'm gonna get out of here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.